What's going on, guys? Thralls the Metal here. I'm Jammin' John.
Shred Lord.
Necrotic Nick.
Hey, what's up? It's the Tommy.
And we are reviewing the long-awaited new Tool album, Fear Inoculum. Comes with some really cool packaging, actually. I don't know if there's an option available without this cool little insert. I think there is. I think you can just buy it normally.
In terms of physical media, that is the only version I have seen.
Just kidding. So,
there's also, as far as I know, there isn't a vinyl pressing yet. There's going to be. I don't know if it's going to come with all the same doodads.
I would guess probably not, because it would have to be a much bigger inclusion. We'll just open it and show you. First of all, the artwork in this album is killer. I'll even pull out the booklet here in a minute. There's a huge, 35-page booklet full of art, and for the first time ever, lyrics.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fucking neat, because no Tool album ever, at least to my knowledge, has lyrics of any sort. So, but one of the cool things that this comes with for what, $40? $45 comes with a little HD screen that plays apparently trippy visuals and trippy noise effects. I've actually had this open in this position for 6.5 hours, and it hasn't played the same thing twice, which is really kind of interesting.
It was 10 minutes.
No, I think, Tommy had it open for 10 minutes or so.
Pretty much, if you've seen Tool live, this is the sort of thing that's generally playing on the Jumbotrons.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a lot of interesting imagery and weird soundscapes. And you can recharge it, and they even have a support line in case that thing ever fails. You can get it replaced or fixed.
Really?
That is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's very innovative.
Neat.
It's easily the wildest packaging I've seen for a CD.
So like I said, of course, comes with a giant booklet filled with tons of really cool artwork, which I would assume, actually, if we watched this whole video, I would assume it encased most of the artwork.
Probably. I mean, there's a lot of interesting visuals in there.
Yeah, a lot of interesting, cool shit in here. And like I said, lyrics. Definitely take a look, and Maynard sings a whole bunch, which is definitely all over this album. So, enough of my stupid ass talking. Let's
talk about the album?
Talk about the album.
All right, well, first album in 13 years, so a lot of people have been waiting on this. I guess a lot of the lengthy wait was due to legal issues and such. This is easily the longest album they have ever written. It clocks in at over 80 minutes. I did not get the downloadable songs because I think they were just interludes, and this album does not need an A because every track minus one is over 10 minutes long. So it opens up with the title track, which is the one that was leaked, and it sounds, pretty much like a straightforward Tool song. A little bit of Indian music influence in there, but not a very heavy opener. And usually they're pretty good about that.
This song felt pretty familiar right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a fan of Tool, you're really going to like this because it sounds like Tool.
Danny Carey's drums pretty much carry it. That's a really cool tribal rhythm that goes through. The guitars are all right on this one. They're almost just more background to the bass playing and the drums and Maynard's vocals. But yeah, this one feels very familiar, especially Enema era stuff. In fact, the ending almost sounds like it was tacked on from 46 and 2.
Very reminiscent.
Yeah, this was a safe song, I would say.
I agree with that.
I think I was reminded a lot of both Anima and Lateralis throughout most of this record. So.
Yeah. Pneuma kind of carries the same dynamic, unfortunately, and it's longer, but throws in some cool keyboard parts and closes really strong.
I would say that was definitely a standout track for me. It came in really sounding like Alice in Chains to me.
Yeah.
That intro.
Really, that intro is Bleed the Freak.
Yeah, it's very, very close.
But it was cool.
Less bluesy, but it's definitely there.
The riff structure, even the note pattern was almost spot on.
Actually, the main riff that carried it kind of reminded me of the bridge on Schism, so once again back to Lateralis.
Yep.
But I thought the end part was what really saved it, because otherwise I felt it was too similar to the first track. And that, you kind of want to pace this thing, and that was an issue that kind of came up on this album for me.
Sounds like Tool. I hate to say that, But
I will definitely say that Danny Carey was very standout
my
across
God.
this entire
Yeah.
album. He
Oh my God.
tore it up.
Honestly, I think this is quite possibly his best drum performance on any
I
Tool
agree
album
with that.
or any album I've heard him drum on. Like he's insane. He's
yeah,
fucking
it's
inhuman.
It's really the polyrhythms are just all over the place. Without Danny Carey, I don't think this would have been a really great album.
After that, we go into Invincible, which is one of these songs that were leaked. Actually, back to back, we have Invincible and Descending, which were two of the tracks that were the live leaked ones that some very, very cool gentlemen decided to take all that cell phone footage and make it into two fucking makeshift videos. Pretty cool songs. Again, a lot of the same dynamics. They really just kind of stuck to their strengths. I think the things that really stood out to me outside of Danny Carey's drums were the fact that Maynard's vocals were really good on this, but he leaned more towards the softer side.
Yes. In fact, I don't think he screamed this entire album.
There might have been a couple of bits.
There might have been a couple places, but for the most part, it was very clean toned as far as the vocals were concerned. In my opinion, one of Maynard's better performances.
Yeah, a lot of cool harmonies.
Yeah. He incorporated a lot of cool things lyrically and or vocally that I don't think normally occurs in Tool albums, such as harmonies.
Yeah.
Such as sticking to a more clean vocal thing. Reminded me a lot of Perfect Circle.
Yeah.
Like the 13th Step, that whole album.
Yeah, and there was another thing that he didn't do. Like, generally he has those long notes because he likes to show off the swimmer's lungs that he has.
Right.
Really didn't get a lot of that either. It was a lot of really interesting, cadences scattered throughout and a lot of layering.
The song, it did have a lot of really cool parts, a lot of cool breakdowns in it, but it felt very familiar, and at times it felt very run-on for me.
And that was, again, another issue. Like, they kind of went back, like a lot of this reminded me too much of some of their previous works, and not just like, the overall feel of it. Well, yeah, it's a Tool album, but certain riffs, certain moments stood out because they were moments that sounded like they popped up in different songs in Lateralis. Like there's moments there I thought that sounded like The Grudge on Descending, and there were parts on here that reminded me of Stinkfist on Enema, and they're too specific. Like, they really stood out as maybe retread.
I think overall the song structure too, sans Chocolate Chip Trip and Tempest, the last two tracks, I think overall the song structure was pretty much the same. Like, it let in really mellow, and then it stayed really mellow, and then it went into like a jammy instrumental. But it wasn't towards the end of most songs that the dynamic changed.
Yeah.
Like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, it got kind of had heavier moments at the end, but it existed only at the end. Every song up until the last two tracks was the exact same thing, just with, like, different notes and different polyrhythms in it.
Pieced together just a little bit differently, but the same ideas.
Yeah, the same overall structure, I think, which is something I would have liked to have seen less of.
Yeah.
A little bit more dynamic to the album would have been cool.
And shift the songs around a little bit. Like, don't put songs that sound too similar back to back. Like, the last track. The last track is easily my favorite, Tempest. It's, I would say, the best song on the entire album. It's a fucking riff fest.
Yep.
It ups the energy. It's strong songwriting. But I know it's a great closer, and that's awesome, but you needed moments like that somewhere towards the middle of the album, too. Because you didn't get a lot of those moments. They were kind of, just kind of pockmarked on the album.
But I will say, Chocolate Chip Trip is Danny Carey's wheelhouse. Now, first of all,
it's weird.
Really weird. And in my opinion, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, in my opinion, having Les Claypool on this track would have been fucking sweet. It sounded like something off of Primus and the Chocolate Factory at first.
To describe the song's feel, if you've ever done hallucinogenics, not saying you should, but if you ever have, some of us have, it's like that moment where the trip turns on you.
Are on them right now.
It was just weird.
You look like a bear.
I am a bear.
Weird.
And it was cool to see how the real drums faded into this weird electronic cacophony of
I felt like we
strangeness.
should have had glow sticks in our hands.
Yeah,
Glow
and
sticks
then all of a
and
sudden it's like,
ecstasy,
oh wait, we're
like
doing
a strobe light,
a jazz drum
fog.
session here? Oh, okay, all right. We put
It
away the
was-
glow sticks then?
No.
It was definitely
drum with the glow sticks.
that Chocolate Chip Trip was very unique. No
Yes.
doubt
Yes.
about it. It was unlike anything else on the album, which is what they were going for, of course.
Yeah.
And it sounded... I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was
great.
fun.
I mean, after 13 years, you want to... Right?
13 years. 13 years. The last album came out in 2006.
Yeah, after 13 years, you want to throw in something a little bit different. And like I said, overall on this record, there aren't too many different moments that appear. But that song for sure was unlike anything I've ever heard coming from Tool, ever.
My thought on the album overall is that there were a few really strong parts throughout each song. But what kind of killed the vibe for me at times, once again, is that lulling, same dynamic, or parts just being carried on to the point where my interest was lost in it, and I was just ready for a change.
Yeah, no, I got that.
Like Tommy needs to change his fucking shit.
Yeah, no, that sounds like the Skids right there, dude.
It was definitely moist.
It was. It feels moist.
I mean, you're close enough to taste it.
Like, you ever pop those the bubbles in the bubble tea?
I just did in my ass just now. I popped a bubble of bubble tea in my ass.
Speaking of popping bubbles of ass tea, I will say one thing nobody's touched on is the fact that Adam Jones, guitar-wise, kind of added to his repertoire and did some things that I've never heard him do on previous Tool albums, which, once again, added to some of those really strong parts that I enjoyed off this album.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
He was my main issue for a good chunk of this because he just stuck to what he does, which... The thing with prog is it's supposed to be kind of freeform and inventive, and he really just sticks to what he does. But later on the album, he actually does some more adventurous stuff. He even gets kind of like stoner rock and some almost lead moments there too.
His guitar tone changes too. I remember the first time it got heavy when the guitar came in. It sounded almost like a thrash tone.
It was beefy and crunchy.
Interesting, yeah.
We like that.
Yeah, neat.
The guitar on that last track, Tempest, was awesome.
Dude, that was...
It was really good.
That was my favorite song on the album. And it's the longest one, too. It's over 15 minutes, but that one did not drag. It kept the pace, and it was just fucking strong.
Yeah, it held my attention.
I like Descending as well.
Descending was good.
Descending, Chocolate Chip Trip because of Danny Carey.
Drummers.
And then, drummer. And then Tempest.
Yeah.
Those were my 3 takeaways as well.
I mean, the tone on everything sounded really good. Every instrument, every single part sounded incredible.
Yeah, it
was produced
so
well.
Polished album.
Yeah, Joe Barresi. He does a magnificent job on pretty much every album he's ever fucking worked on.
Vocals sounded great. Bass sounded great.
Yep.
Guitar sounded... Everything sounded amazing.
Nothing muddy. It all stood out on its own. It's a well-balanced mix, and it feels very organic. Like, this is exactly what you're going to get live, too.
Right. I mean, once again, it goes back to the fact if you like Tool, you're going to like this album, because every Tool album sounds...
He's done production...
very well put together.
2 of them, or 3 of them now.
I kept thinking while listening to this album how much I would like to see them do this live.
Yeah.
I can imagine that this album live would be incredible.
Oh, especially when you throw in all the weird fucking visuals and shit they do. I mean,
definitely.
I've seen Tool...
I've seen
4 times?
3 times? All were at the sports arena, though.
Saw him at Kobo.
I've seen Tool 0 times as well.
Saw him with Meshuggah twice. That was how I first heard of Meshuggah. Was actually seeing him live with Tool.
Yep, that was where I first saw him in 2001.
Yep.
All right, time for our overall ratings on all this. This is all our individual opinions, and, no wrong or right answers here, of course.
I mean, unless you're really wrong.
Unless you're really wrong, like Noonan.
No, I'm not wrong. What day is it? It's almost Friday?
Febtober 35th.
Yeah, I'm never wrong on that day.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and lead in with where I ranked this album. I thought it was good. I gave it a 3. Now, the reason I gave it a 3, obviously the production was incredible. Everything sounded good. There was just a lot of run-on moments for me that killed momentum and overall made me lose a little bit of interest. I'll listen to this album again. I gave it a 3.
I'm also going to give it a 3. God, the songs were long. Now, I'm a fan of prog. I like long songs. But my thing is that there wasn't a whole lot of differential between the first, 3-4 songs. When you're going to have 4 really long songs back to back, there better be something different in there between to help you, mismatch them, I guess, a little bit more. The drums were great. The vocals were really cool. Again, it was a well-produced album, but to me it needed a little more, which I didn't get. So still a great album, and I'll still probably jam definitely certain songs again. But I'm going to give it a 3.
All right. I'm going to go a tiny bit above you guys, and I'm going to say a 3.5. For me, this album could have been a 4, maybe even a 4.5, honestly, if they could have trimmed the fat. There was just too much stagnant fat in the album, and if they could have trimmed that down a little bit. Once again, I'm also a big fan of prog, so there's a way to do it, and the way to do it is to not drone on the same parts. So if I could have done with a lot less of that and stick to more of the strong parts of this album, then I probably would have given it a 4 and a 4.5. But for those reasons, I still think it's a good album, and I give it 3.5.
I'm also going to give it 3.5. I liked it. The songs did run on too long, and they stuck on moments that were not necessarily as interesting for too long. And those bigger, huge moments were kind of more pockmarked. Up until you get down to the last track, which is a fucking ripper. I don't understand why that wasn't in the middle of the album.
Right.
That really would have, a lot of my issues are pacing, too, because it kind of just sticks to that same dynamic for a number of songs. And granted, they're really well-written, well-constructed songs, but you kind of get tired of it. And the whole thing about prog is it's supposed to be very kind of free-form and inventive.
And it's supposed to be like peaks and valleys, you know? You're supposed to...
And this was slowly ascending a peak and then always coming back down the other side, which, you know, that's not necessarily very progressive, especially when it's the model of so many tracks on there. There's a lot of really great music on here, though. I think initially I was really kind of irked by Adam Jones kind of just sticking to his guns so much. But later on, he really impressed me and stepped to the plate. I was like, holy shit, okay. My bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. 3.5. I think that's pretty fair.
All right, ladies and germs. Thank you for watching this incredibly awesome review video. We are the Thralls of Metal. If you like what you saw here, please hit the like and subscribe button. And as always, stay metal, mother truckers.